If you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Erica Connor?
Here.
Mary D. Moore?
Yep.
Will Frederick?
Yes.
Andy Mankey?
Yep.
Art Schneider?
Here.
Greg Wirtz?
Here.
Jeff Vokel?
Excused.
Bill Warner?
Here.
Barry Winchowski here.
All right, this is an open meeting and has been noted as such. We'll start with citizens' comments. We have one. We have Jen Cotterone and Marin Dobbs. If you want to come up to the table, they're here for MFAB.
You're saying we have to use this? Do you have to do anything special? Can you hear me?
Is it on?
Yes. I think it's on. All right. Well, good evening. As you said, I'm Jen Cotterone. This is Marin Dobbs, and we're here just to represent MFAB and kind of give you an update on what is happening in the fine arts. Just to recap, in case you're not familiar, the McGuanago Fine Arts Boosters was created just 5 years ago to support the arts in our district. Despite its youth, I'm happy to report that the organization is doing well and our programs are thriving. MFAB's membership this year consists of 60 families and 8 businesses. We're on track, or even that's a little bit ahead of where we've been in the past years. We have a budget of approximately $35,000 that goes towards supporting programs at the elementary through high school levels. We also support the Performing Arts Center by donating money to purchase much needed lights and equipment that is enjoyed by all those using the facility. Some of the things MFAB has funded include new instruments, commissioned pieces, new equipment. For just this year, that includes things like green room bins, makeup palettes, Z-racks for costumes, costume shop organizers, and multiple lights for the PAC. We've helped with choir robe alterations. This year, purchased a new rug for the Rolling Hills Elementary School music room, and assisted, of course, well, a big one back I put about the grand piano. We help with that. All right, each year MFAB gives each student who participates in the WSMA, the Wisconsin School Music Association State Solo and Ensemble Festival, a unique t-shirt to celebrate this achievement. We also provide camp scholarships for students participating in summer music enrichment programs and fund scholarships to recognize outstanding seniors in each of the fine arts departments. While we have a handful of small fundraisers throughout the year, our biggest fundraiser at the time is running the concession stands for the MHS basketball. And we thank the MHS athletic department for giving us this opportunity. While the fine arts in other districts are struggling, our programs continue to grow. With a team of passionate and energetic directors and an expanding catalog of programs, we are excited about the direction of the arts in McGuanago. It's been scientifically documented that kids who participate in the arts are more successful students. That's why MFAB is dedicated to supporting and enhancing the arts in the McGuanago Area School District. Any questions? You guys have questions? All right. Thank you.
Thanks for stepping
Thanks,
in.
guys.
Okay, we will move on to the consent agenda. We have approval of board minutes of December 16th, 2019, and approval of voucher numbers 12558 to 126489 in the amount of $2.2 million and change, and receipts for December of 2019 totaling $6 million and change. Sorry, do I have any questions or concerns? Hearing none, it is approved by consent. And then presentations, we have our student rep report.
Good evening, everyone. So first on our representative report, we have Parkview Middle School. And before winter break, Parkview had a band, choir, and orchestra concert for their students. And it's a great way for them to come together as a school community before leaving for Christmas break.
Next, in Big Bend Elementary, they had their High Interest Day on January 17th. And there were 28 different presenters who all volunteered their time to discuss their different careers, hobbies, and passions for all the students to learn about.
Clarendon also had a concert for their 5th and 6th grade general music, band, orchestra, and choir students who performed at MHS's PAC.
And then if you flip a page or two, you'll see that section held their Super Bowl food drive during January. And the students were able to collect soup from McGuanago Food Pantry. They asked for chunky soup so then families could make these casserole recipes, and then one can of soup could be spread out through more families and more people. Also, the school made it a little bit more fun. For every 10 items that were collected, they moved 10 yards closer to a touchdown. And then the grade level that collected or had the most touchdowns won a Super Bowl ring, which was a ring pop for all the students.
And then with Prairie View Elementary, North Prairie was celebrating their 100th year anniversary. So by doing that, they had an assembly on Friday, January 17th, where 6th grade students worked hard on compiling historical documentaries of businesses in the area, and they showed their rich history of this community.
Rolling Hills also had a few different events going on throughout January, but we would like to highlight that Rolling Hills would like to share a big shout out to Julie Thiem. Julie's work with National Geographic has been published in the Nat Geo Education blog, and it showcases the work that she's been doing with students at Rolling Hills in the 18-19 school year with teaching them about stop motion animation. And when we send out the electronic version of the report, there is a link if you would like to read that blog.
Thank you, ladies. All right, next we have Pupil Services staff updates.
So if you look in your packet on page 5, there's a memo from Eric. And Eric is here. Christine Bowden, our Pupil Services Director, is here. Is Randy joined? Oh, there's Randy. I'm sorry, Randy. Didn't see up front. So Eric and Randy have presented to us. They presented, I think, last spring on the 18 to 21-year-old program, a number of other Pupil Services related activities, and so they're here tonight to give us a couple of updates.
So yeah, in the last this last school year, we've done a lot of district analysis in the Waukesha County. Like I had said last time, we have been really looking at other transition programs to see where they're located, what their schedules look like, and staffing. So our next steps is to kind of look at what we're going to be doing next year. So I'm just going to go over currently where we're at and where we're looking into. So as far as staffing, currently we have one full-time teacher right now. Karen's here joining us. So she's our transition teacher at the high school. And we have 3 rotating special ed paras that are with her throughout the day. So when I say rotating, they're in other special ed classrooms, so they're not just Mrs. Flynn's. Next year we're looking at, again, 1 full-time teacher and then 2 full-time paras within the transition program. Schedule. So currently we're on the block schedule for the transition program, which it makes it very difficult because there is a bell schedule. So when she's out in the community, she has to rush back to get back to the high school, and they have to, stop different if they're sometimes they're going out with like tri-skills, other adult programs here that we have at in Mugwanago. So that's been hard for her. So next year we're looking at possibly reducing the day to give her prep in the morning and then in the afternoon. So their school day would be shortened a little bit. And then the programming would be based on the individual needs. So based on what they need or what they're looking at, their days could look quite different than a normal high school student. One thing that we really looked at other schools is the criteria. And when I say criteria, it doesn't mean that one fits all. So depending on the student's needs, some things that we're always seeing at these 18 to 21 programs is vocational skills, peer relationships, independent living skills. So whether they're located at an apartment in the community or even some of them are in the high schools, there's some sort of space that they're using for those independent living skills, and also personal cares. Again, the community and transportation is another big piece. So what are they using for transportation? Here we're using Seniors on the Go a lot, or now we have one special ed van that we purchased last year, and we hope to get another one in the future. So we can take more students out into the community. And the biggest conversation we have going right now is location. Do we want to be at the high school or out in the community? So yeah, Tom and Christine are really looking at that right now in some different locations. So that's in the works. Questions on the actual 18 to 21?
I have a clarifying question on staffing. So
Yeah.
your 3 rotating instructional assistants, are they full-time as they rotate through?
They're part-time.
There are 3 part-time instructional assistants that maybe will spend an hour or 2 hours with Carrie out in the community, but then sometimes she'll be out with groups and we actually have to bring one of the instructional assistants back so that they can do other tasks within the high school and then pick up another instructional assistant that's at the high school and take them out to the community. So we're balancing the instructional assistants between school-based needs and our community needs currently.
So it's 3.5 positions? Are they not 0.5?
Right now it'd be hard to categorize.
Define it that way because they're all over.
They're currently 3 part-time positions, but they're not 3 part-time positions dedicated just to our 18 to 21 program. They're high school instructional assistants that an hour or 2 of their daily schedule is supporting our community-based programs.
Okay.
So we've made significant strides with this program, but we recognize that we have some room for improvement. And Eric and Randy and Christine, Carrie are all working on that. One of the things that we need to take a closer look at in order to prepare these students for life after school, employability, basic living skills, daily living skills, is where should this program be located? And so the high school is a possibility, but as Randy said, we're looking at some off-school sites. And we are exploring a number of those right now, and we'll be back to update you soon with that, but we are looking at that for the start of next school year. I'm sorry, Randy, I interrupted. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was just saying, I didn't say how many students, we'll have 11 students in the program next year with 2 in wheelchairs.
That's a significant number, isn't it?
It's huge.
I just have a question. I brought up a couple times this Parents United that we pay to be part of this group. They are having on January 28th presentation or whatever they're having at 6 o'clock. I didn't know if that are for parents or the students that would be in this. It's called post-secondary options, what comes next for me.
Yeah.
So I don't know if would be a way to let people that might be of value to.
Thank you. I have sent that out to all the special ed teachers, and I also added on, I have a website for the parents out there for different resources, and I added it on there, so hopefully it's getting out to them.
Any other questions? No? Thanks, guys.
I do have just quick then at the bottom piece, just some updates on grants, because I know it can kind of be confusing with the language. There's a couple transition-related ones that we're striving to help offset some of the costs of these programs. So the first one is the Transition Readiness Grant. That's funding available to support evidence-based practices for our students. We did apply for it last year. Unfortunately, we did not get it. I included in the memo that last year they awarded the CISA 1 districts that were awarded were Elmbrook, Kenosha, Milwaukee Public Schools, and Racine. So we do plan on applying for that again this year. We can get up to, unless they change it, up to $100,000 for transition-based programming for our students. Typically in the past, this application has been released in February and due in early March. So hopefully sometime soon we'll get notification that it's been released and we can apply for it again. We did do the Transition Incentive Grant, and we were awarded $24,000. So I was able to talk to those of you that are on the Finance Committee last week, Monday. And my hope is that we can apply that $24,000 towards purchasing 2 additional vehicles to help support this program and our other opportunities for our students within our buildings. And then Randy did do some work, and she was awarded a $2,000 grant from the Wisconsin Board for People with Developmental Disabilities. It's an Employment First grant. She'll be doing some work with the chamber coming up here in February, I think February 14th.
Correct.
This is to really help bring awareness to competitive employment opportunities for our students within our communities. So the first step is that initial breakfast, and then there'll be more of a parent focus in the spring, and the intent right now is to bring our parents of our students that are currently and will be a part of the 18 to 21 program together for that piece in the springtime.
So just so we're clear, the Chamber of Commerce Awards Breakfast that they have every year, and I know a number of you have attended that at various times, so that will actually be at Mugwanago High School on February 14th. And Randy and others will be doing a presentation, right, or helping to participate?
Yeah, Christine will be welcoming everyone.
Okay, that's right.
And then I'll introduce, I have two ambassadors that will be speaking on their experience.
Sure. So our students will be actually presenting at that awards breakfast, and we'll get some good visibility there. The great things that the kids are doing, and the staff.
Thanks, you guys, for all your hard work.
Thank you.
And then just a piece of correspondence on page 128. So Representative Brian Stile, who's our rep for District 1 in the House, he sent this letter congratulating us on. Of course, I got the letter saying what a great job I did, but of course I didn't do any of it. It was these guys right here that did all the work, of course, and they should be recognized for that. As you know, we're a low revenue district, and any additional revenue that we can get, it's a big help.
All right. Small territory detachment request.
So in your packet, and I forgot the page numbers.
6.
Page 6 through 9, that's the Koth family request for a small territory detachment from Norris to McGuanago School District. And so part of that process is we invite them here to speak on their behalf and explain what they're requesting. But they are not here tonight, so we're going to move on. But we will vote on that in February. Per state law, we need to do that. And as Tom has explained in past meetings, the Norris School District will approve that. So there is no concerns. Very small territory detachment. You have anything to add to that, Tom? I didn't mean to steal your.
Nope.
Okay, moving on to Student Learning Committee update.
So just, Stephanie is at Prairie View for her daughter's concert tonight, 3rd and 4th grade concert, big night. But there wasn't a lot in the Learning Committee packet, so Sherry, if you want to explain.
Well, we just, we looked at, they have this class that they've been developing, and they don't have them quite done when school starts, so we looked through that for the drama class. If you haven't looked through that in your packet, look through it. It's quite extensive. Julie wrote it, and she covered everything. It was really quite amazing, and I would like to say that in public, because when we ask for class descriptions and what they're going to do and where they match, this is one that could be put out there for everyone should look like this. And then we looked at some policies. There was a couple we had questions on, and only one was brought back, and that was a very small change from K4 to K6, and that will become later for approval. And then there was some discussion on the testing and how some of the kindergarten teachers were thinking of not testing all of them each time, but I'm sure this will come up again because there's been some discrepancies on that. That's about it.
Finance and Facilities Committee update.
We went over policy 6423, the use of credit cards. We made no changes, we just kind of reviewed it. School to Workhouse, the Rotary or no?
Rotary Club, right?
Is going to be discontinuing that program. So we will be doing other things within our school district and using, I can't remember his name. The School to Work.
Dustin Lehman.
Dustin Lehman.
Yeah, just to be clear on that, so the Rotary is going to continue to partner with us on other projects, but they won't be buying the lot anymore for that project. Instead, we're going to be doing that on our own with a builder. So Dustin is pursuing, we want to have another School to Work house next year. This year, if you recall, they're going to be doing the building trades classes. We'll be working on the baseball, softball, concession stand, press box project. But next year, we'd like to have another School to Work house. So Dustin is actively looking for builders.
Okay. And then we went over the 1920 and 2021 budgets. It was very exciting and enlightening.
Thanks, Mary.
Sorry you all missed it. And then we did online fee payments, and we discussed whether or not we were going to continue with the fees or possibly find another way to get those, but we've decided at this time to continue with the fees. For using the credit card, parents always have the option, the free option of sending in money or a check. And then we went over Fund 38, the non-referendum debt payoff, which you can enlighten us on that one.
Sure. So in Fund 38, we have about $1.4 million of fund balance available, and the debts that we owe are callable on April 1st. So if we made those payments, we would avoid $90,000 in future interest charges. But the question becomes, if it becomes negative tertiary spending, then we would forfeit about $200,000 in equalization aid. So you always want to save the interest cost if you can, but in this sense, you don't want to sacrifice $200,000 to save $90,000. So I'm going to analyze this one more time here and make a recommendation to the Finance Committee in February, because if we do decide to pay this off, we have to give a month notice. So on March 1st, we give a notice to the bondholders that on April 1st, it'll be paid off in full. So more to come, but I anticipate my recommendation would be don't pay it off early because the cost just isn't worth it. Typically, I'd say avoid interest costs for anything, but in this sense, with school finance, it doesn't add up.
Okay. And that was it.
Okay, Personnel Committee update.
Staffing update.
So we're gonna talk about that when we do our approvals. So for example, the district nurse, high school associate principal replacement, et cetera, and that's in the action items, so we can talk about that at that time.
And then we looked at several policies. One we looked at, and Sean is going back and doing some further research, so we don't have any policy updates or changes at this time.
All right, so the board policy 142.5, the board vacancies policy, we're gonna bring back some possible additional language for school board members who move from one region, like eastern region, to the central region or west region. Does that mean that they should forfeit their seat? So we'll bring that back for the personnel in February, and then we'll discuss it at the full board.
Okay, moving on to action items, we have appointments, resignations, and retirements.
So Susan's here if you have any questions, but the memo is on
13.
page 13.
So I'm bringing you two retirements that have been submitted. One is Carrie Jester. She has 23 years in the district. She's a second grade teacher at Big Bend Elementary. And Amy Budzinski, who has 19 years in the district. She's a fourth grade teacher at Prairie View Elementary School. So both of them have submitted their retirements at the end of this school year.
So two very strong teachers that definitely will be missed at Big Bend and Prairie View.
Appointments, we are looking to hire Adam Brostowitz, who is the interim school counselor, limited term for the remainder of the school year. Adam has been a instructional assistant, special education assistant in the district for a number of years, went back to get his school counselor license, so has been working with our special education students for a while, and so is a strong candidate for that position. Noelle Mengi is candidate for school nurse to replace Heidi Young. Noelle has about 12 years of nursing experience in the private sector, primarily in the hospital venue. She is also a resident of Eagle and has small children that will be attending McGuanago School District. So she's excited to join our district because her kids will be attending here. And then finally, William Plant as an interim AP for 50% for the remainder of the year to replace Lou. That's only an interim for the remainder of the year until we post and hire for the regular position. Questions?
Will Bill plan to have an opportunity to up for the job for next year?
Oh, sure,
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We'll be posting that both internally and externally.
Susan, I have a question about the counselor. I know Christine, I believe, made a proposal to us that we were going to hire in December, I think it was, to hire one elementary full-time counselor, and then we were also looking for one for SOAR part-time. So Is that still the goal for
The
immediate?
social
or-
worker, part-time interim social worker,
Okay.
yes. Second round interviews are tomorrow, Christine?
Okay, so we're accomplishing what
Yes.
you
Correct.
requested.
And Adam Brostowitz would be that limited term elementary person.
So he's at Clarendon right now.
He's already there.
Yep, he
Great.
started it a couple weeks ago.
I'd like to make a motion, we accept the resignations and the appointments.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Open enrollment seats for 2020-21.
Sure, so my memo about open enrollment is on page 14, so if you want to go to that. So Christine's also here to talk about the special education open enrollment, but as far as regular education open enrollment, I don't see any changes from the past several years. At the elementary level, we will be able to accept open enrollment students probably at every grade level, but not every grade level at every school. So as long as parents, when they make their request, show some flexibility, we should be able to honor those requests at the elementary level. But if they insist on Prairie View first grade, it's possible that we won't have space there. But we may have space at Rowan Hills or section in first grade. At the middle school and the high school, we will be able to continue to accept regular education open enrollment students. Any questions on that? That's been our practice for a number of years.
I actually do have a question when it comes to siblings under full-time open enrollment, under A, and then also under B1.
Yes. So we're going to get to that.
That's not right now.
But it can be.
You tell me.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so we actually got we got a number of calls this summer of parents saying, well, I was told at the school that because my kid is already in the school, their younger sibling coming up is pretty much guaranteed a spot, even though they are an open enroll family. And it turned out that younger sibling did not get a spot and got placed in a different school. So the discussion would then be, so for an open enroll family who has chosen our district, are we okay with the idea of splitting them up? Do we feel comfortable with trying to make a provision saying once one sibling is in a school, we guarantee or we give them a preference, I don't know, when there are spots for an open enrolled sibling to get in the same school? I don't know what you guys think about that, because it was kind of it was a big deal over the summer, at least in the families that this was a problem with, and I get it.
So if you take a look at my memo, again on page 14, the Department of Public Instruction has made a point of clarification on that kind. And so if you take a look at that language, if a school board's open enrollment policy states that the board may guarantee approval to currently attending applicants or siblings of currently attending students, it means at the board's January school board meeting, the school board must decide whether it will guarantee approval to these applicants. So we're going to look for 4 motions tonight on this. If you approve the regular education open enrollment, then whether or not you want to guarantee open enrollment students, younger siblings. And I guess it doesn't even have to be a younger sibling, it could be an older sibling too. But, so we accept an open enrollment student, let's say a 4th grade student from East Troy. They are accepted last year. Now they have a kindergarten student that is open enrolling to our district for next school year. Do you want to guarantee that? Our school board policy says may, but the Department of Public Instruction wants us to clarify that. Do you want to guarantee that siblings can follow?
I would prefer not to make it a guarantee, but a priority. So they take priority over another single student entering in that grade level.
Okay.
A priority over
As in,
other open
over
enroll.
other open enrollment, because
That
they
doesn't happen
already
anyway?
have a sibling in that school.
Okay.
So they should get preference over the other kids.
But Joe had a good question.
Doesn't that happen anyway? I mean, don't we in good faith try and keep the families together?
Oh, absolutely. But again, what happens, so at Prairie View, let's just use Prairie View as an example, if we have a year where there are a ton of kindergarten students, and if we add open enrollment students, it's going to cause us to add another teacher, another section, and we say no. So open enrollment is based upon space available. And that is how the state law reads. And so that's how we have administered that policy. Some people don't think that's how we do it, but that is how we do it. So it's based upon space available. Now, like I said, the DPI has made a point of clarification. You can guarantee siblings of current open enroll students. You could, even if we don't have space, what we would do then is we could put them in another school. Still doesn't say you have to put them in the same school as the sibling. But you could add another section. Most of our schools have space to do that. Not all of them, but most of them do.
So by guaranteeing, you're not guaranteeing the school, which is what we're doing right now anyways. Because you said.
Well, we've had to deny some siblings of currently attending open enrollment students. Not only
So there
have.
wasn't room in any school in the whole district?
Well, sometimes they say, I only want Prairie View. I won't go to Clarendon or section where we might have space available.
But what you're saying, we can say we'll handle it like any other open enrollment student.
Mhm.
We can accept you, however, you will not be able to go to the same school, and then they can choose. That's not us denying them, that's them choosing not to come.
But that's true also, yeah. But it's entirely possible that there could be a year down the road where we don't have space available in any of our elementary schools at second grade. That's theoretically possible. Unless we add sections. If you want us to do that, we can do that.
Sean, how does the timing work for that? Is there a deadline for the application and everybody gets notified at the same time?
Right, so the deadline is by April 30, and then we have to notify the families by June 5.
Okay.
But we try to do that sooner. Some families open enroll to other districts, not just Mugwanago. So we try to let them know as soon as possible. But we also want our staffing to be, we want to move that staffing process along. So we don't want to wait until June 5. Usually we do that early May.
I get where the problem arises, but it's an open enrollment, and we're gonna hire another teacher.
Oh, I get it too,
Class
because I
for
would
one
think
kid.
as a mom, I would be like, well, wait, I'm not guaranteed my kid, the next kids can't come, well, then I might rethink this. But at the same time, it's a choice that you make when you're open enrolling. I get it.
When we were in declining enrollment, and we were for a few years, I can see why a principal, although they should not, might have told an incoming open enrollment family, yes, we'll probably be able to get in your younger child. But there is no guarantee. And we've made it very clear to our principals not to say that.
So as long as we're consistent, do we really need to change anything? Which we are consistent.
Yeah. I was just bringing it up to clarify because there have been a couple.
Okay.
And the third piece is along the same line. So sometimes we have students that are currently attending our schools, then they move. Let's say they move to Waukesha, and then they apply for open enrollment. Do we want to guarantee them a space?
They technically have a seat before they leave.
That's true.
And as someone who did this exact thing but ended up having to apply for a tuition waiver because open enrollment was closed, I know that there are other avenues to try to remain in your schools even though you move.
So, right, you would apply for a tuition waiver if you would move after the open enrollment period is closed. So if you move after April 30, but if you move in March, you can still apply for open enrollment for the following year. You would be able to stay, probably finish out this year, but do you want us to guarantee a space for that student the following year?
See, I mean, I agree. The guarantee is, you know, that's a iffy word there. But prioritize them over others, yeah. I mean, if they're 5th grade in elementary school and they have one more year, but the parents made a move for whatever reason. I mean,
Yet
I
there
would
already
think
a
we'd
seat
have to
counted
be.
in our
Right,
enrollment, so
exactly.
it doesn't really change.
Right.
It doesn't warrant that we'd have to push, we'd have.
And
to have
hopefully
another
we're
teacher.
human when making those
That's what
decisions, which we
talking
are,
about,
so.
We try to
You're gonna
be, and we
guarantee
certainly
even
understand that.
though we have to hire another teacher. That's kind of what we're discussing.
And Christine's here also to talk about the fact that sometimes we could have a student, and this is going to sound, it's not going to sound real great, but we may have a student that has special needs that costs a lot of money to educate. And so if they leave our district, do you want to guarantee that they come back via open enrollment? I don't think we can guarantee that if, as when Christine's going to talk here, we don't have space in our special education program. So we are going to recommend again that we close open enrollment to special education. So I think if we would guarantee students that are currently attending but move out and then apply for open enrollment, I don't think that's consistent. So I don't think we can guarantee currently attending students who want to apply for open enrollment. I don't think we can guarantee that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
When I started
and
talking in circles.
Same answer, yeah.
If they open enroll and there's not enough space, and then, let's say it's a kindergartner, because kindergarten is the fluctuating one, it's a younger sibling now, so we're talking about the younger sibling, not the, and they're declined. And then when it comes time to the actual opening of school, those numbers aren't there. Do you know what I'm saying? Let's say 2 kindergartners, 3 kindergartners, whatever, don't come. Is there like a waiting list? So, I mean, if that's, because obviously they'd have a sibling in the school. It isn't like you're just gonna open enrollment and then by now you start and you go to a different district and you start. But if you have a sibling and then there ends up being a space in that kindergarten classroom, could that open enrollment then happen, the sibling happen? Or once the deadline's passed, they can't? I mean, because this.
So there is an alternative open enrollment application. And there are a number of different criteria that you can apply for alternatives. So if for some reason you miss the open enrollment deadline on April 30, you can apply for open enrollment via the alternative application. There are, like I said, a number of criteria. I don't know if that would fall under those criterion, and I would have to look that up. But for example, we do get occasionally students that are being bullied or harassed in other districts. Those parents can apply for open enrollment through the alternative method. And then if there's space, we accept those. So sometimes we get a student in the middle of October because they've been harassed in their current school district. And they apply open enrollment alternative method.
So if a space, I think what you say is if a space becomes available in
Yeah.
one of our schools, they'd
Right.
have to reapply.
I have to check on that.
You can have a waiting
Laura.
list.
Do we have a wait? Okay, that's.
There,
what we're in
you can have a waiting list, however, a student has until the first day of school to take their seat. So even though they say they're not coming, then we can use that seat. But if they don't return their slips with their intent to come, they can actually come unless we tell them that they can't. So it's kind of open-ended. Does that make sense?
So if we, but if we say no, we can establish a waiting list?
We can establish a
Okay,
waiting list.
so there you go. I guess that the answer is yes.
Because then, for like those families you were discussing, let's say kindergarten again, because that seems to be where the thing is. You say, okay, there's no room in this kindergarten, but you can go to Rolling Hills instead of Prairie View. And now, the school starts, there's room at Prairie View, so that student could then move to Prairie View where their sibling is, I guess is what I'm.
Sure. Well, definitely, we could accept them in another school
That's what
in
we-
our district.
Yeah.
And then they absolutely, if there's space, we would move them to the school with their sibling, absolutely. Yes.
Start
I thought you meant if they,
Well,
if
no,
they
that
stayed
too,
in
I
their
did-
home district.
Well, and
No.
that too, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
but, yeah.
And I do think incoming siblings is very different than those that are currently here and move out. I am not sure. I am okay with that one. I get the incoming students, because we have no guarantee that there's a spot for them. But when they're here and they're already sitting in a spot and we know we have a spot for them, I have a hard time telling them, there's no guarantee you can't stay. But that's number 3. What's number 4? We've got 4 of these to vote on?
Yeah, then 4 would be the special education, and Christine's memo is in the packet, and she explains the rationale and the formula that we've used, and our programs are full, so we're not able to accept open enrollment special education students. And that has been the case. This will be the 3rd consecutive year that that's been our recommendation.
If, however, an in-district student needs special education, they always get it.
Oh, absolutely. And if we have an influx, or not an influx, if we have a number of students that are identified, current students that are attending our schools that are identified, and we don't have enough staffing, we hire more. We come to you and ask for more.
I'm good at doing that. I do need some clarity, though. I wasn't sure what the decision was with regards to students who are in the district currently and then move out of the district and are a student with a disability. Will that student then be allowed to open enroll back into the district? as a guarantee?
Allowed, but I don't think guaranteed. I think that's what we're discussing
Just
on
not
that.
guaranteed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So then, if you want to do those 4 motions, the first one would be that regular education students, if space available, will accept them.
I would like to make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
And then siblings of currently open enrolled students, there is no guarantee that they'll be able to attend, but they'll have priority over other open enrollment students.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Then currently attending students, again, no guarantee that their open enrollment application will be approved, but they would have priority,
I'll make that motion.
and again, space available.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And then the 4th one is that we'll close open enrollment to students with special education.
Motion.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, all 4 motions carry.
Thank you.
Teaching staff handbook updates.
So if you look on page 23 to 35, and then on 36, we have a couple of different things we need to update with the handbook. The post-employment benefits you actually approved last March. My memo to the Personnel Committee and the accompanying information is in there, but we reduced that retirement age from 57 to 55. No additional cost because we're out of the health insurance business for retirees. So we just need to get that in the handbook. That's what we're looking for, a motion on that. And then the $500 match, which is on page 36.
Sure, yeah, we talked about this with the Finance Committee. We currently have a $500 match for teachers in tiers 4 through 7. If they defer $500 into a 403B, the district will match up to $500. We just recently introduced a 457B, which is an alternative option. If a teacher were to not take advantage, not do a 403B, but they did a 457B, the question was, would we honor that match? Not to honor both, just to say if they did a 457, would we honor that? And so the committee, the Finance Committee recommended that, is recommending to the board that we do honor that. So it's one or the other, but not both.
Finance Committee, did we not discuss the vesting Were we not gonna change that?
We're gonna come back to
We're gonna
that
come back to that,
eventually. So I think, not to get off topic here, too far down the road, but the $500 match is not money that we turn over immediately to the employees. We have that money, we designate it, we set it aside in Citizens Bank, and once the teacher reaches 15 years of service, then they can request that money and we turn it over to them. Eventually, the question will be, we're setting $500 aside. When we give them that money, do we give it to them in the form of 403B or the form of 457? And that's to be determined. I don't know if employees can have a say in how they get it. Typically, the IRS doesn't let you get to pick what benefits you get. We have to assign those. So more to come on that. But the 15-year vesting schedule, most people would tell you that's pretty long. That's a long time. Some districts will just say, here's the $500 right at the end of the year, and they turn it over immediately. So we'll consider that in the future. For right now, we're just trying to determine, is the board comfortable through a motion, through a vote of honoring the 457 like we do the 403B.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Employee referral program.
Pages 34 to 38, and Susan's here. She put together that proposal to incentivize. As you know, there's a teacher shortage, and especially for some certifications. And so we're thinking that this might help teachers recommend others. It doesn't need to be a teacher, it could be other employees too.
No, it can be any employee can refer any other type of employee.
So we shared this with the Personnel Committee in December, and they moved it forward to the full board, and so we're here for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Neola policy updates and changes.
All right, here we get to the fun part of tonight's meeting. So if you could go to page 39, we have one short policy change with 2131. That's the reading instructional goals in kindergarten assessment. The Learning Committee has recommended a small change. Reading intervention should be available to students not just in K through 4, but K through 6. Am I reading that correctly? All right, great. So that's one policy change. You want to take them all at the same time, or you want to do that one first?
I think we can do that one first. That was from Learning Committee. We were not sure why the policy stopped at 4th grade when they're all in the same building, working under the same literacy curriculum, essentially.
Motion to approve.
Motion?
We have to make a motion to waive the first reading.
So we would, I'm sorry, we'd waive the second reading. So this is the first reading, we'd waive the second reading.
Waive the second
Right.
first, and then we
Yeah.
can vote.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to waive the second reading
I'll second.
and a second. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, no opposed. And now, Mary, or Andy, you motioned?
Jeff had the second, or Joel had the second.
Joel had the second. Okay, any other discussion? So that's accepting this policy update.
Correct.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None. Now the fun ones.
Yes. So as you know, Neola provides legal updates to us a couple of times each year. And so this month and next month, I'll be bringing some of these legal and minor changes to you, basically changes in wording and adding some legal language. And so we sort of have them divided into 3 or 4 different categories. The first is the conflict of interest. And if you take a look at page 42, this is right from Neola. And our Neola rep, Richard Zimmern, comes in and he explains these things to Laura and I, why the changes need to be made. But Neola also provides this written explanation. And so you can see why they are recommending changes to policy 1130 through 3230 and 4230 on conflict of interest laws. Evidently, the state law says that for a conflict of interest, breaking the law, it has to be something $15,000 or more, But what they're saying is, no, there could be a conflict of interest that doesn't involve that kind of money. So, and the example that we have used frequently is if a second grader who would like some extra help after school on their math, and their second grade teacher says, no, I can't stay after school and help you, but Mom and Dad, I could tutor your son or daughter at the library tonight at 7 o'clock for $20 an hour. That would be a conflict of interest. And that doesn't involve $15,000, obviously. So this is clarification on that. Why the 3 policies? 1130 is for administrators and board members. We've had, believe it or not, we've had board members that have tutored students before, which is perfectly fine. I don't want to give you the impression that we don't have teachers that tutor or board members that tutor. That's fine, but you have to make those arrangements, not with your current students, outside of the school day, off of school property, et cetera. 3230 is for teachers, and then 4230 is for support staff. That's the difference between those 3. So then if you take a look at the actual policies themselves, on page 44 and 45, that's 1130, then 3230 is on page 46, 47, and then for support staff, 48 and 49.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
I admit that I did not read the detail of all these conflict of interest, so I just have a general question and see if it's covered, and maybe it doesn't matter. In the world now of everyone having some sort, not everyone, a lot of people trying to create a side hustle through the internet by a business that is either selling something, or let's say they create an app, or they have a talent that they're making a product.
Mm-hmm.
Could that apply to any of our staff, and would that be covered under this policy, and do we care? Because maybe it could be more than $15,000. I'm sure you see all kinds of examples of children making $1 million because they've created some crazy product and their parents are sort of behind it, et cetera, et cetera.
But
so I'm just saying, are we being our eyes
how would
wide
that be
open?
a conflict, though?
Well, let's say you have a teacher who has a product maybe that they create that they could have manufactured and selling it on their own website. I mean, maybe it's not a conflict of interest.
So if you look at A, under conflict of interest, it says no administrative employee, officer, agent shall engage in or have a financial or other interest directly or indirectly in any activity that conflicts or raises a reasonable question of conflict with his or her duties and responsibilities in the school system. So, I mean, if all of a sudden they're not doing their job at school anymore because their
I know.
Etsy
It's
shop
a gray
is
area, but
killing it, then maybe. But I don't think if they're just having a side hustle, that has nothing to do with their responsibilities and duties here, nor does it affect it, then I would say no.
Right.
If that's why.
They just
So,
couldn't
but-
advertise their site in their classroom.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
On a Friday folder.
Correct.
On the doors.
So if
I mean,
Scott Pratt
I'm all for
or
the entrepreneurial spirit, but I just want to make sure that
They're not selling their wares at
they're
schools.
not selling, something when they should be.
correct, so that would be covered by this
Will be
policy,
covered.
correct? Yep.
Okay.
But if Scott Pratt and Jim Forda made their kids create an app, and then they took credit for that app and started selling it online, not that
That's
Scott or
cool.
Jim would ever do
Right.
that, that would
No,
be
I
a
got-
conflict
yeah,
of
that
interest.
wasn't the type of example I was thinking of. Not someone being,
Yeah, that-
sinister, just.
Do we want to keep moving through them, or do you want to take a
so
moment?
that's up to you guys.
Keep moving through them? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And the next change is for policy 1400, which is job descriptions, and basically that says that the board has to approve job descriptions for professional staff, but not for support staff. We have to have job descriptions for support staff, but just a clarification in the language that we don't bring job descriptions to you for support staff. That's a pretty simple one. And non-discrimination and equal employment opportunities. So if you take a look at 1422, 2260, 3122, and 4122, those are, read the description here for those, remember. So, this is on how long, if we do an investigation, if there's a complaint, how long we have to keep the records. So we have to keep the records for at least 3 years after the completion of the investigation. So that's the big change there. And then 1662, 3362, and 4362 is for employee anti-harassment. And that's similar as far as record keeping, but you can read that on page 43, why the changes were made there. So again, the United States Department of Education Office for Civil Rights expects to see policy language mandating that school districts retain records and materials gathered during the course of the investigation of harassment. And that's why you see at the back of each of those policies, that green print, that we added all that language to say we're gonna keep those records and maintain them, just in case there's some kind of lawsuit down the road. So those are the changes that Neola is recommending.
I make a motion to adopt them as written
My second.
and waive the second reading.
And waive the second.
So we waive the second.
Although we have to, oh,
You do that first.
okay,
So-
so I will make a motion to waive the second reading.
Second.
And we have a second. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, then I will make a motion to adopt these policies as written. And I have a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Purchase of vans.
Yeah, so Tom and Christine, is Eric still here?
Okay, at the Finance Committee, we talked about the discussion of making a purchase of 2 vans. The vans have a price tag of $30,654, but applying towards the cost of these vans would be a $24,000 transition incentive grant that Eric has already gotten. And then there would be an additional $18,000 of state categorical aids applied to this. We would apply first with DPI to say, we like these vans. These vans are for special education purposes to transport our 18 to 21-year-olds throughout the community, to get life experiences. Is there anything else you want to add to that? Furthermore, all things considered there, the price tag on the 2 vans would be $19,300. Furthermore, is the cost of transporting our 18 to 21-year-old students to school and from school. And that price tag would be $56,000 annually. So this would give us the opportunity to avoid those costs through purchasing these vans. So if there's any questions on that, we can answer those right now.
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Second.
A motion and second. Any other discussion?
I guess the only thing to point out is that most of that grant money comes next year. So we pay the full price.
Correct.
And then get reimbursed.
Yep.
Next year.
Correct. And that's the state categorical aids, like equalization aid, you have the cost this year, and then you get the reimbursement next year. So we do have room in the budget to make these purchases. We don't have to use fund balance to make this happen. So I feel fine about this, and I recommend that we do it, but it's up to you.
And Eric, this is quite extraordinary that he goes and applies for these grants, correct? I feel it's a amazing deal. I think we talked about it a lot at the Finance Committee meeting, but Erica did a great job on this one, I think.
Absolutely.
Agree.
Yeah, pretty incredible.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
And then I just wanted to add one thing, because our SOAR program is doing extremely well. But as you know, that alternative education program, we need to make sure that we're doing job training skills for those kids too. And I don't know if they'll be using these vans, but one of our current vans will be more readily available for SOAR kids to be used on Wednesdays. So Mark and Cherry Loicano take those students to a variety of different places, especially, usually on Wednesdays, right? That they,
All different days of the week.
okay, but they'll be able to do more job training with the van availability increasing in the district. So thank you for that.
Purchase, or sorry, support staff handbook proposal, the 90-day waiting period.
Yeah, so the Finance Committee discussed a recommendation that I had to eliminate elements of the 90-day introductory period for support staff members. Currently, there's a number of things that new support staff members are restricted from. We're not looking to eliminate everything, But the 5 things that occur during the first 90 days of the support staff's introductory period is, one is that they are subject to dismissal without recourse to a grievance procedure, and we're looking to keep that. But we are looking to eliminate, currently they're not eligible for health insurance or insurance coverage of any sort during the first 90 days. They're not entitled to use any type of compensated leave, sick leave, vacation time, and they're not eligible for holiday pay. So in today's competitive environment of hiring, it would be helpful to eliminate restricting them from having access to their benefits or their paid time off. Typically, we don't have a lot of turnover with our support staff positions when it's coming with benefits. We have long tenured people that stay with us for 20 years. We just had John Haddon for 43 years. So we don't have a lot of turnover with these positions, but when employees apply for these jobs, they have to really consider, can I live without 90 days of health insurance? And that can be tough and a deal breaker for some of them. So the cost savings aren't tremendous by denying benefits and paid holidays for 90 days. So I just like to get rid of those aspects of the rule, but within the first 90 days, I would like to keep that. They are subject to dismissal without recourse if they're not living up to expectations there.
I think we discussed this quite extensively. I think we're good. In today's competitive market, we're good, right?
Yep.
Keep it moving, right?
So are you making a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
A motion and second. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Unfinished business. Superintendent report.
Yeah, so if you want to take a look at my Palmyra Eagle update, I have a memo on page 109. We're in the 100s.
Big packet.
Those harassment policies are huge. I think that the Neola policies were the ones that chewed up a lot of our space. So on page 109, I have a number of things related to the Palmyra Eagle Area School District Dissolution Resolution decision by the School District Boundary Appeals Board.
111.
Oh, 111, sorry. So on page 111 is my memo, and then the motion is on page 112, and then the different components and the rationale that the School District Boundary Appeals Board used to deny the resolution to dissolve are on page 113 through 116. So when those 7 board members were discussing why they opposed dissolution, and as they went through each of those components, the quality of education, the geography, et cetera, bus transportation, that's the rationale that they used. So if you're interested, you can take a look at that. The next several pages are the school district reorganization detachment for small territory detachment. Now, I know a few of you were on the school board the last time we went through this process in 2015, when we had a number of town and Village of Eagle residents initiate a small territory detachment. And I think there were 5 of them, 5 or 7 at that time. And if you recall, that process went where they initiated the petitions, and then they had enough electors in those small territories to get those petitions certified with the Palmyra Eagle School District clerk. Then each school board had to listen to the presentation by those people that initiated the petition, and then we had to vote on whether or not we would accept the small territory detachment. Our school board, after much discussion, voted yes, we would accept those small territory detachments. However, the Palmyra Eagle School District voted no, which makes sense. They didn't want to lose that property. And so then the petitioners, the people that wanted to detach, they wanted to appeal to the DPI, but they missed the deadline. They missed the deadline for the appeal. So that died at that time. So that was in 2015. We have heard that a number of small territory detachment petitions will be initiated again. Just so you know, those petitions must be signed by 50% of the electors in each of those small territories, and that must be certified by the clerk in Palmyra Eagle by February 1. So I don't know if that's going to happen this year. Don't know if that's going to happen. But if it does, then in February we'll have to deal with those petitions. And we'll have to rule on that. We'll have to vote on that. The board will have to vote on that by March 1. So that's a possibility, just so you're aware of that. So I have that process described there. We've talked about open enrollment tonight. I have no idea if we'll have more or fewer open enrollment applications from Palmyra Eagle. As you know, we have about 250 of their students right now. And with that decision being made by the School District Boundary Appeals Board, my last point in the memo, number 5, is it's really time for us to focus on our district now, our students, our staff, our schools, and using the strategic plan as our guideline. We need to take a look at what our needs are, and we can move forward now. So I didn't know if anybody had questions about the School District Boundary Appeals Board decision, where we go from here.
I would say it's a, for us personally, I'm happy to see it over for now.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big dollar amount, an unfair dollar amount, and I think we have plenty of our own issues to tackle.
Not too many though, right? I think as we move forward, we keep it in the back of our head knowing that it's very likely going to come right back in the near future, in a couple of years.
So that's a possibility, and I do think that it's prudent for us to continue to work with our state legislators.
Right.
As you know, we always invite them, usually, especially in budget years, and this is not a state budget year, which is probably good, but we'll still invite our legislators to come and speak to us, and when they come, usually in March, we'll talk to them about a variety of things, but one of the things that we should continue to talk to them about the dissolution process. Doesn't make any difference if it happens to Palmyra Eagle or anyone else. They do need to update that law and make it fairer for dissolving districts. And I just don't think that anyone believes it's fair that an absorbing district should have to take on the debt of another district. That's a tough sell. And I think the state legislature needs to take a look at that. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, and then 2 quick things. One is the board meeting schedule. Just so you're aware, in March, there are 5 Mondays, and the 4th Monday is spring break, so we'll have our board meeting on the last Monday. I think that's the 30th. And then in May, the 4th Monday is Memorial Day, so we'll actually have our board meeting on that Tuesday following Memorial Day. If that's up for discussion, if you guys want to change, that's fine with us, but that's what we have scheduled at this time. And then the last thing I have for tonight, we're doing really well here.
Slow down now.
So the correspondence, like I said, Representative Stiles congratulated us on that grant that, again, Eric worked hard on.
You did a great job,
Yeah,
Sean.
thanks. And then I want to make sure you see Rachel Crockford, principal at section. Her thank you to the town of McGuanago Police Department for the money that they raised for our Angel Fund for students who have outstanding lunch balances, and so they raised $450. So that was really nice of the town of McGuanago Police Department. And then we have an email from a parent, Katrina Gross-Leopard, who is complimenting Mark Soini. And Mark is one of our CTE teachers, our Woods instructor, and their daughter, Emma, who I think is a junior, made this fantastic project in the Woods class, and I can't remember which class she has. It's not beginning Woods, but it's
Advanced Woods, I think.
yeah, something like that. One of our many CTE courses that we have so many students taking right now, and we included some pictures of that project. It was on social media.
Her parents couldn't believe it wasn't purchased from Pottery
I
Barn.
know, it was,
They couldn't
it's
believe
pretty
their daughter-
impressive.
They couldn't believe their daughter made this
Yeah.
TV stand.
That's good stuff, and I can't say enough about our CTE program, whether it's business, foods, welding, manufacturing, woods. They're doing some great work in there. And so this is just a good example. And that's all I have.
Board President report, I don't really have one, other than I want to thank Cherry and Jeff and Jill for joining me at the WASB School Board Convention. We are going to figure out a way to debrief you all on all of the stuff that we learned. I don't know that we really have a solid kind of mechanism to be able to do that. I don't know that it's in Board President report, but maybe we can bring information to committees.
Consolidate.
Because there's a lot of good stuff that's been presented that we would love to be able to bring to you guys and talk about. So we'll figure that out in the near future. And the Native American mascot resolution did not pass. I don't know if you heard that.
Read the article, nice job at representing us.
It was very surprising. It was very surprising, and yeah, we move on. Legislation, correspondence, you did. Any other board member questions?
I have a couple things. I think our pom and dance team took first in the region, going to state.
Yep, this weekend in
And,
lacrosse, yep.
That's fantastic, and our wrestlers are ranked #1 in the state and number 21st in the country. Quite the program going on in wrestling.
Yeah, and the girls' basketball.
Girls' basketball.
Ranked very high in the state also. A lot of good things going on. And so, and then one other thing I forgot to mention, I think this was in your packet. And so, as I have stated, we have started our community education program, and these are our initial offerings. So we're excited to
Are these out
get
to
that
the
program.
community? Or were these just a first, when does,
So it's out via social media, via email, through
the
key news to families. So it is, but I don't know that this itself has been mailed.
They were sent to all the schools to give to in their Friday folders.
oh, so she just said the students got them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so students got them, but I have seen it online as well.
There's not one in our packet.
So if we want to get.
Oh, there's not one in your packet?
It was in the last packet.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't
It was
last.
in-
Oh.
Finance.
It was in the finance packet.
Oh, sorry, I misspoke.
And Laura, how's the response been?
For some of the classes, really good.
Awesome.
For others, not as strong yet, but we do have to find a better way
To get to the
to
people
get,
who don't
Yeah.
have students.
get to the people that don't have students, so.
Obviously, that's our target.
That was
Yeah,
the
that is
goal.
the target, right? So,
When does the next newsletter go out?
mid-February. Yeah, Triad will go out, I think, the third week of February. So
Can they-
it's our initial kick at the can here, so.
Can you give it to, was it Angie at the library, or is that a
We
conflict?
have, Bob's dropped them off at the banks,
Okay.
at the library, you bet.
Okay.
You should see them floating around
Okay, good.
the district at
Coffee
various
shops,
different places.
the coffee shops will probably take them.
Yeah,
my
I'll
guess.
ask them.
Yeah.
I'll talk to them tomorrow.
Since we have about 6 of them in the community now.
Art's
Yes, we-
passing them out at every open house.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, there you go. That's
Thanks, Art.
That's
That's everybody, we're covered.
That covered all 12.
Any other board member questions, comments? Okay, do you have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thanks, everybody.